But
Oh, okay.
that, like,
I can.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
This is too much fun. All right, go ahead.
Mr. Mundy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here today. I would like to know what has been your all-time proudest moment in your entire life?
Probably in 2011, I won a tournament in Chicago. It was the Intercontinental Championship, so it was like the North, South America, Central America, North America, all of it. And so I placed third, but the two people that were ahead of me, this is a chess tournament, two people that were ahead of me already had some kind of title, so it couldn't go to them. So I placed third, and I was invited to represent the Americas in the 2011 Amateur World Championship for chess. So they flew me to Antalya, Turkey, and I played there, and it was, that was definitely my crowning achievement in that phase of my life, competing in chess. So.
How did you do in that tournament?
It was tough. In the end, I was battling for top 10,
Mm-hmm.
and in the penultimate round, right before the end, I was playing a guy from Brazil, and we were very equally matched. And I actually got a winning position, but we both had like seconds on our clock, and I just made an oversight. So he ended up winning, and in the last round, I was just kind of depressed. Because that was the shot right there.
That was the one that you
So I don't know what I placed. I don't remember, but yeah, I was competitive, and I was close, and it was fun, and it was difficult. But
So you mentioned that was in Turkey. Did you do a lot of traveling for chess, or
yeah, I've played a lot of different places down in the Caribbean, Europe. Of course, online you could play everybody everywhere. So now I've played lots of countries that way. But as far as traveling, mainly United States. But yeah, all over the United States, competing from Montana to Georgia to Las Vegas to Pennsylvania, New York. So, but a little bit overseas. But that you have to kind of choose at some point. Like, do you want to keep going with that, or which is just a grind, or do you want to like focus on teaching, for example? And I really liked teaching, so I kind of went that path because I didn't want to dedicate 24/7. It's actually kind of isolating being at that level because it's just you and maybe one or two close people because you can't share secrets with anybody and stuff. I decided I didn't really want to pursue that life. And that would have no room for family or anything if you do that.
How was that transition from being a competitive player to being a teacher?
Well, for me, it was really good. Somehow it translates because I learned what not to do, and all that training and all the losing through the years, up and downs, and it made me a good coach because I could tell the kids, well, don't focus on that. You got to focus on this. That's not important. That and the randomness that some people have in their training, you just be like, it's like in other things. I know I'm jumping around, but in other fields, you hear people say that it's an 80-20. So there's 100% of the stuff you need to know, but focus on the 20% that's relevant, and then you learn the other 80% as you go. And so a good coach knows the 20% you should focus on. So I knew the 20% you should focus on. So all of my teams when I was coaching, my teams have won everything from regionals to state to nationals in multiple times. So all of my students have been very successful because of that experience. So
what's been your best moment in like leading a team of yours to victory? Like, what's your Chicago tournament for your team?
Well, actually, it was one of my first in 1998 is when I started coaching officially, and I had come back to Georgia from Montana, and I got a little bit of backstory. I would work before I was like doing chess coaching professionally and everything. I worked in Hollywood. I did electricity, lighting, all this other stuff like that. And so we did commercials and we did movies out in Montana in the summer. And then I'd come back to Georgia for the winter and I'd work at the TNT studios, do the Braves report, NFL on TNT, all this stuff like that. So studio electrician. Anyway, I volunteered at a club, I was just playing and, I was playing at the Gwinnett County Chess Club, and a guy told me about this other guy that was doing this study for chess in the schools, because it's like, everyone knows that chess is good for your education, but no one's ever done like a study that could be peer reviewed. So he was actually doing a full study. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he said, yeah, he sent out these flyers at the central cluster in Gwinnett, and he had like 300 something kids respond. And he's like, he can't. It's overwhelming. And I was like, oh, I could go help him out because I was in between jobs. That working in Hollywood was great because I could like take a job and work for 3 months or whatever, and then I could take like 4 months off, whatever you could choose your schedule. So I was in between, so I had time. So I went over and talked to him. His name was Ray Avant. And so I helped him set it up and everything through that whole first semester, which for them was like January through May. And then at the end of it, I was like, okay, well, good luck. I hope you guys do well with your study and everything. And he's like, no, we want you to teach it. We want to hire you to teach it because you develop the curriculum, and you're doing great with the kids. So I had to make a decision, like, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing, or do I want to just start teaching more? And and there's the whole competitive side and everything. So at that point, I started teaching in the schools. I quit doing the electrical work, which is a huge pay cut. I mean, it's really like that passion story type thing, because I was making really good money in Hollywood, and then to go to like nothing, teaching, because teaching wasn't, they didn't pay a lot, but I loved it though. When I did it, I just lit up, and I was like, okay, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. So I pursued that, and so there was this one school, Esther Jackson, here in Georgia, and the people that were running the tournaments back then were horrible. See, I've done everything in chess. I was a tournament director. I've written for magazines. I've done just about everything you can name. So I saw how they were doing their tournaments, and it was horrible. So I went to the guy that was the head of the Chess Association then. His name's Thad Rogers. He's still out there today. And I said, look, let me show you how to do this, because you can be using computers. They were still using index cards to pair these things. Anyway, it was very inefficient. So he gave me permission to run the tournament. I ran the tournament and showed them that you could use computers and not have to do all the other stuff. Anyway, at that tournament, I ran into this one little team called Esther Jackson. And the thing that was impressive was, like, it was their very first tournament. They'd never been to one before. And they were just trying to win one game. They had lost every single game, got destroyed. So they were just trying to win one game. That was their goal. And so watching these kids sit at the board, even after the fifth round and everyone else is pretty much done, and you see these kids trying as hard as they can just to win one game. And they did. One of their teammates won a game. And so I was like, that's inspiring. I like this team. So I met the sponsor and agreed to be their coach. So from that point, 1 year later, they won first place at a regional event. Wow. So that's like my proudest moment, because they went from like literally worst to first in a single season. And so
all the same kids.
Yeah. Had those kids for a good 4 years, because you know how it is. Yeah. Some graduate, but generally you have the core of it for like 3 or 4 years. So I had, And one of the kids was really bright too. His name's Jonathan Loesch, and he ended up going to Georgia Tech when he was like 16 years old.
Okay, go Jackets.
I know, right? That was crazy. Anyway, but anyway, that's just side note. But yeah, so that's really the proudest moment. And I've had others that did well too, but that works to first. And seeing them try so hard, that was good. That was inspiring.
I would like to hear your take on, obviously recently, kind of chess has kind of had a big boom online.
Yeah.
Ever since pretty much
COVID.
Yeah. How do you think online, like things like chess.com, which is like the number one online chess website, how do you think that has contributed to chess? And do you see any benefits or pros and cons?
It's funny how it goes up and down. Like Bobby Fischer was the first official American world champion. And when he did that in the 70s, chess had a huge boom. So through like the 70s and the 80s. And then, it's just like it has cycles. It kind of went down a little bit, but kind of go back up a little bit. And anyway, but after, COVID hit and people were trapped at home, and chess.com had like perfect timing. They'd been around for a while. I can't remember when, maybe 2012-ish, maybe. But anyway, then COVID hit and people are trapped at home. And then you had movies or shows like The Queen's Gambit that came out on Netflix. And I don't know, it just really boosted the popularity. It's huge. There's like 90 million members on chess.com now. It could be over 100, but last I checked, it was 90 million. And chess was always really popular worldwide. Seemed like the largest sporting organization is either soccer or the Olympics Committee. Those are the two largest, but third is chess. Okay. And more people play chess than anything, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. I played a guy who was blind once. Physical capability, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, I was teaching him. Yeah. So, but I was trying to teach him how to visualize better, because he's has this board and he's feeling like this. And I'm like, you can learn to see this. You don't have to like do that. And so I was teaching him how to visualize the board, and he did really well. I mean, he was like 1600 rated player, so he was good. So so that feeds to the popularity, because it doesn't matter. It's inexpensive. Anybody can pick up a board cheaply, and it doesn't matter if you're, in a wheelchair, if you're handicapped. It doesn't matter. I mean, anybody can play. It doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult. There's a level playing field. It's just experience and imagination. So I see plenty of kids beating adults all the time. So yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Have you ever had a student of yours teach you something?
Oh yeah, yeah. I learn like every game I play. You know, it doesn't matter. I play everybody like they're a master because you can learn something from every single game. And definitely, yeah, I've learned from my students. And you know, at first I'm teaching them the basics because there's always that baseline, and then after that, you know, they understand it. Their imagination takes off, and then you learn something from them too, which is cool. And it's humbling. I love chess because it's humbling. You can't be arrogant because if you get arrogant, you're gonna find someone that just cleans your clock, and then you know you can't. You're setting yourself up for failure because you're bragging, right? And everyone hears you bragging, and then there's some little 8-year-old that's going to beat you, and then you can't brag anymore.
Yeah.
So you just have to stay humble all the time and just realize there's constantly something to learn. You're never done.
Have you ever had that little 8-year-old like play something against you, and then you remember using that like later in a tournament?
There's a kid in this school right now, Camden Cassie, and he's taking lessons from me. He's going to tournaments, and I mean, talking about computers and everything, you know, chess is very well researched. And yet we were doing a lesson like 3 weeks ago, and he discovered his own gambit, like on move 6. And I was just like, we were like looking at it in the lesson, and I said, so what would you do here? And he's like, well, I think I would consider this, and then they would do this, and I would consider this and this. And I'm like, yeah, but if you do that, they're just going to take. You're just losing a pawn. What's the point? And so we put it in, but the little bar on chess.com went up, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So we started looking at it closely, and it was incredible. So he literally discovered his own. I researched it, and one person played it on chess.com for the first time back in November, which he knew nothing about. It was just some blitz tournament, some random thing. So I mean, it's like, yeah. So if we can develop that and then play it in a tournament and it gets published, it could actually be named after him.
Right.
So yeah. So I definitely learned stuff from my students because everybody, you know, imagination. Everybody has their own take on things. I would never have played the move, but it's really good. I can't wait. I might get to play it at some point. So. Don't know what's going on out there.
I don't know. Slamming
a
in
little
the
scary
door.
out there. So, anyway.
So yeah, a lot of us know you as a chess player. I mean, that's kind of, you're so famous at school. Hey, this guy, Mr. Mundy, he's a candidate master. Everybody loves him. But I think another super fascinating thing is that you are a very accomplished engineer, and I'd like to hear you talk about. I don't know exactly what you majored in college, but I'd love to hear you talk. About
didn't.
That. You didn't.
I didn't go to college.
Really?
That's right. A lot of people don't know that.
Really?
So
No,
yeah, because I got out of high school. Simple story on that, and I kind of relate to Sam this way because Sam seems to. And I don't know about all your friends, but I know some of his friends. Yeah. I had older friends. You know, when I was in high school, most of my friends were older. So the story is this: they were graduating and going to college, and my parents, you know, we were low middle class, maybe middle class. I don't know. We didn't have money. So my dad always made it completely clear, like when you graduate, you have to pay for your own college or you have to go in the military. You have to figure out what you're going to do because, you know, we don't have anything to give you. But my parents were always big on education. So they had us reading books, you know, my dad would make us read books and like take quizzes on books at home. So we didn't just have our schoolwork, we had to do that too. But my dad was a master carpenter. Now he went to college and he was going to be a doctor, but he decided it wasn't for him. He'd rather just build and, you know, make his own company. So he did. He had a very, you know, successful, because we weren't rich, but he was well known, could build anything. He could go like to clear a piece of land that was completely raw and build anything you wanted, and even had a blasting license and all sorts of stuff. He literally could do it all. So I apprenticed with him all my whole life, me and my brother. Okay. And that's how my brother actually got the job that landed me the job in Hollywood, because my brother was at Oglethorpe University, and they were building sets for their art department, play department, whatever you call it. And you know, and basically they didn't have the skills to build them. And Jerry's like, well, I can build that, because we grew up building stuff. So that's where my engineering background comes from. Okay. We grew up building everything, including me and my friend, which was, statute of limitations is gone, so this doesn't matter. We built like a little antenna. We didn't know. This is in high school. We built an antenna to intercept people's phone calls. Really? It was so cool. So this little Yagi, it was like this big. I mean, we chose the frequency because we knew it would be small, and we built it. It was awesome. But anyway, totally illegal though. But
you just confessed on tape.
Yeah, but it's statute of limitations. Come get me.
Hypothetical story.
Yeah. I'm exaggerating. Anyway, but so all this experience building stuff and doing stuff, and plus we always had the educate yourself mentality. Yeah. So we were always studying stuff. So anyway, so all my friends are going off to college, and the pattern then, I'm not saying it's the pattern for everybody, but at my school at that time, the pattern was they'd go to college and spend 2 years not knowing what they wanted to do. Now, maybe they had the money, maybe they had scholarship, I don't know. But to me, that was a total waste of resources. Because I was like, you know, I don't want to go to school for 2 years and waste money if I don't know what I want to be. Because I actually, the first thing I wanted to be was a theoretical physicist. They don't really make any money though, but I wanted to be. And then I thought, well, I could be a pilot. Yeah, so I looked into the military because I was really interested in flying. And so I just didn't know. That was one of those kids that just had no idea which direction to go. So, you know, I worked a whole bunch of jobs. I did this. I worked in restaurants, you know. But, you know, by the time I was 19, I did not want to be living at home. So I moved out at 19 and just, you know, went and crashed with my brother and his college friends and paid rent and started trying to figure things out. And through the skills that we had through my dad and working with him for 12 years, a long time, ever since I was like 6 years old. It's crazy. And, you know, we landed jobs down at TNT Studios. So there I was making a lot of money, getting fed all the time because they catered everything. And then we started doing the Hollywood stuff. And it just, you know, I already had a skill set that I didn't have to go to college to get something else. And then the chess thing happened, you know. So for me, my life is just like, I've always studied something and then something else happens. And if it gives me a little twinge of excitement, like that little passion, I pursue it. Right. And so far, every time I've done that, it's been rewarding. Like even with statistics, you know, what happened with statistics was the old teacher, because of COVID, she couldn't come back. And I knew that, you know, the chess programs probably would take a hit because of COVID, you know, can't be touching stuff. So I was like, I need to pivot a little bit. So I actually went to the administration and said, if you have anything else you need me to teach or something, let me know. I'm open. And they were like, oh, we need a statistics teacher. Can you teach it? And I'm like, well, let me look at it. So they handed me the curriculum. I looked at it. I didn't like the curriculum because it wasn't much on critical thinking. It just felt like it was kind of like get through the book, do as much as you can, memorize. I didn't like that because I took statistics in high school and my class was like that. So anyway, so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And same thing. I love statistics. Now I'm actually considering going to school to get a degree so I can do like fraud analysis and stuff.
Really?
Because
That's
I love it.
awesome.
Because it's like, it's just lines up just with chess, right? It's critical thinking. You've got data and you got to look for the patterns. And my brain loves that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't love that, but I do. So I think I'm going to do it. So anyway, so I always recommend that to people. If you have like a passion for something, follow it, you know, because it could lead to great things. You just don't know. So,
really cool.
so anyway, now, you know, now I know what I would want to do and I could just do it. But it'd be nice to have known back then, but I didn't know.
How long have you been doing like statistics related stuff?
Just these 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still learning. Like I've been studying central limit theorem, and I studied FFTs in the fall, but I got to go back. You know, it's one of those things, you can't just study it and then you know it. You got to study it, go do something else, revisit it, and you start building up. So, but yeah, just nice and slow and steady. You can learn anything as long as you're consistent.
So you said you're thinking about going back to college, or to college to work on that. What do you think you have other future plans in store? Anything else you have, like a bucket list maybe you want to check stuff off?
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm 51 now, which surprises a lot of people.
You don't look a day over 22.
Yeah, yeah. There were things I'm like in my 30s or 40s, but I mean, but like I said, I have that mentality. Like I've never understood the retirement mentality. What is that? That's like something the Germans came up with in the 1870s or something. And I heard it was a trick to get people to work. So it's like, what are we working for? Because they want them to do like 8-hour days or something. I was like, oh, retirement. But I don't know. You're always learning. You're always doing stuff. So I do want to compete again. You know, with COVID, I haven't been to any competitions, but I feel like my skill has grown. So I want to go compete and pursue the statistics or the degree or something, some kind of data science. I'm just not sure yet. And I mean, maybe the degree is not the thing. Maybe it's just certification is enough with something. I don't know, but something along those lines. Okay. I'm going to keep pursuing those. And of course, you know, I draw the drafting. I'm actually working on a children's book with a friend of mine who's an author. I'm illustrating it. Yeah. Wow. So I got to finish that. So, but yeah, so I'm all about opportunity and just like I said, if it excites you,
there's always
do it. You can learn something from it. Yeah. Just keep it.
Do you have anything specific that like motivates you on a day-to-day basis, or is it just that idea of like discovering new things?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's just, I don't understand how anyone ever gets bored in this world. Yeah. I mean, because there's so much to learn, so much to do. And if you really get into anything is interesting. You know, it's just, you just got to understand it. And then it's just, you know, there's always little intricacies. And I mean, we live in this total world of creation, you know, and we're not apart from creation. We're part of creation. And if you get into that, it's just fun all the time. You're always creating something new. Yeah. I like that. Like the game. I want to get into the card game because that's just awesome and it's just so hard. Yeah. So,
Do you think there's maybe like a generational kind of thing where, because I've heard recently people say that the attention span for people is decreasing
Yeah.
with generations. Do you think there's some kind of generational thing that, everybody gets bored nowadays, whereas back in your day, 20 years ago, because that was your day?
Yeah. Yeah. 80s and 90s was 80s was my high school days. I graduated in 1990.
Yeah.
I think it's this, honestly.
Okay.
People have too much at the tip of their fingers and they don't know what to do with it. Like me, this is research device. I have like hundreds of tabs open in my phone of questions that I have, like FFT. So it's like, oh, what's a fast Fourier transform and how do I use that? And central limit theorem and all this other stuff. It's all there because as soon as I have a question, I can use this encyclopedia to just look it up. And then I just learned about that chat AI. Oh my God, that has potential.
Yeah.
I tried it with some Excel stuff and it messed up, but it has potential and it's really good because you can just look anything up and and some people say it's conspiratous, like it's China messing with kids in TikTok. You heard about that?
Yeah.
But might be true. But yeah, I mean it's not an entertainment device to me. But since people have like this at their fingertips and they don't have to think, they can just look it up. It's just too tempting, I think, for younger minds. Just like, when I was a kid, it was video games. And they're like, don't play video games, you melt your brain. But all kids like to play video games. It's fun. I still play video games.
Yeah.
And it did not melt my brain. But it's a tool and you have to learn how to use it. And maybe most kids are too young to use it the right way. And they're just using it for videos and silly stuff. And when it's like, you could be learning anything you want.
Yeah.
Right there. Anything. You just got to look it up and ask the right question.
They want to watch cartoons.
Right, they just want to watch cartoons. So, and because you do see the math skills going down. In my day, you didn't have calculators. My friend got the first TI calculator when we were seniors in AP calculus.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first one. He had a graphing calculator. We was like, oh, wow, look at that. We're all doing it by hand.
Yeah.
And I was telling my engineering class today, it's like, you realize we went to the moon on slide rules. They figured all that stuff off. All the calculations. They had no computers and stuff that they were working with. So, I mean, the skill was higher because they had to.
Yeah.
So, but there's always a balance. So, because now with this other stuff, maybe I can relate it to chess and computers because, computers are really good at chess now, but they didn't get good at chess on their own. Mm-hmm. They have opening books programmed into them. They have in-games stuff programmed into them. They have a lot of encyclopedic knowledge just at their fingertips, and they can calculate great. So, so humans were good, and they helped computers get better. Now computers got better, it helped humans get better. We have more grandmasters now than ever. Mm-hmm. So it's like this back and forth. So it's the same thing with this. The knowledge is there, but now maybe one generation goes down a little bit, but the next generation will figure it out and be like, no, we don't. We need to step it up. So I think it's like a seesaw like that. So it's just right now it's a problem, but soon people will figure it out and be like, okay, let's not waste our time watching TikTok all day. So, limit it 15 minutes or something.
I don't want to ask, do you ever see a world where you become a grandmaster?
I used to say no, but there's this funny thing with the human brain that as long as you stay consistent, it will keep growing. Like I quit playing chess one time when I was about somewhere around 19 because I just felt like I wasn't getting any better. I just hit that ceiling. But maybe I was 20. But anyway, I quit for a while. I literally woke up on my 21st birthday and it clicked. And this interesting thing is like somewhere around there is when your brain finishes its first big development. Mm-hmm. So you're grown up technically, your brain is finished. So, and I've had that experience several times, especially with other students and stuff. They get frustrated. I'm like, just keep going. You're going to get that aha moment. It's going to happen. And it does, eventually the neural paths get set up and it makes sense. So, same thing has happened. I haven't been competing, but like on chess.com, I'm in the 100th percentile. I mean, I have grown as a player and not even sure how, but just, I think it's time things soak in and you understand it better. Like I used to be so specific and it's just always, calculating as much as I could. Yeah. And now I'm more general, that's why statistics clicks with me is because I realize that, you don't need to be specific. You just need a good direction. And statistics is all about that. Just give me the direction to go in. And that's, I don't know, it's helped me grow. So I want to compete again. I'm going to go.
So I wanted to ask a question. What do you think about high school Jim? What would high school Jim think of the person where you are today, the person you are today, would he
He would be
surprised?
shocked that I'm teaching. High school Jim was a total class clown. I mean, I was, when I was really young, I was basically ADHD, but undiagnosed. But I was a class clown, jovial. I wasn't like a mean person, but I was always cutting up and making jokes and getting in trouble. Like we had trigonometry when I was in high school. That was another level. I think they combine them now.
Yeah.
But we had like you go geometry and then trigonometry and stuff. And so I have a friend that took that class with me, and he still remarks to this day how he learned nothing because I was in there, because I understood it. That was something I grasped very easily. Yeah. And he was just like, but I was always cutting up, and our poor teacher, I gave her such a hard time. She was a great woman, but I was just, I'd question things. It's like, oh yeah, how do you know you can really cut that in half? It was terrible. But so my younger self would be shocked that I'm actually teaching now. And I often think about those teachers, because it's really hard. You don't think about the classroom management that teachers have to do, right? Because, you have some students that are really good at something and some that are struggling, and you have to find that balance. It's just not easy. So I respect my teachers a lot more having taught. So, yeah, it's not an easy job, and especially public school. Man, that was tough. I went through public school, so man, they had like 30 kids in their classes, and they were doing the best they could. So, yeah.
What do you think would you regard as the hardest time in your life, or the time where you really felt the lowest? It could be recent. It could be when you were 4 years old.
I mean, honestly, I've always been pretty happy and pretty positive and outgoing. But I think at some point, like before I met my wife, you just get to that point. It's like, am I just going to be alone? We do this thing in engineering where we call it indexing your fears. And the whole point is everybody gets, you might remember, you might have done it too. Everybody gets an index card, and you write down like 5 things you're afraid of. And then they hand them in, and then I tally them and make a little chart and stuff. But the whole point is just realizing that everybody's afraid. Everybody has these fears, and that's one of them. The fear of, I don't know, not finding that other person, not connecting or something like that. So somewhere in my like 30, 31, 32, I remember being like, I just, it's not that I didn't, like I asked people out and stuff, and, I go on dates and things like that, but nothing was happening, right? Nothing was clicking. So I was like, well, maybe I'm just going to be one of those players. I'm going to go travel the world by myself and just play chess. But I really wanted to, start developing a family. And one of the reasons I moved back from Montana was like, well, I need to have something solid. I need to make something for myself, and that was the goal. But nothing was happening, Like I said, dates here and there. But so that's the only thing was, other than that, I've always been pretty happy. And I had lots of friends that were, dating or married or something, and they try to hook me up, set me up with somebody. And I just remember they're like, oh, doesn't it suck being lonely? I'm like, well, it sucks being miserable. I'd rather be lonely than miserable, because you'd rather find the right person, right, and then be happy. So yeah, that's it. That's the lowest part, was just, but I met Miss Mundy, and we're happy as clams.
Would you tell us how you met her?
Yeah. I was learning to save money. So there was because I was very free, like I said, Hollywood paid me well. Right. So I had lots of money, no problem there, and I would spend it too much. So I was, during the summers when I started teaching chess, I still had those habits. And chess, I took a big cut, right? So I didn't have money in the summer then, at that point. I was living off credit cards. So I was listening to WSB radio. There's a guy named Neil Bortz that's talking about this dollar bill saving program. He's like, learn to save $1 at a time, right? And you'll see how much it adds up. So dollar bill savings program is really simple. You never break $1. Every time you get $1, you have to save it. So you break a 20, you get dollars, you save it. You break a 5, you get dollars, you save it. Anything else you could spend, but you never spend $1. So anyway, so it was teaching me how quickly that money can add up, because like in a month or something, you can have like $800 if you're spending money. So anyway, so I had all these dollars, and I was going to go open an account. So I go to Wachovia, open this account, and I put my dollar bills in there. So every once in a while, I'm coming in with these dollars, and it didn't matter how many people were in line. It could have been 3, it could have been 15, it could have been 20. Somehow she was always my teller, because she was the teller, supervisor, manager, or something. Anyway, so she was always the teller, and somehow, even though I could count, my dollars were always off. And somehow, and we started laughing about it, just like I couldn't count. And that's kind of how it opened the door and got us going. And finally, it was Valentine's Day. Oh, that's when I asked her out on Valentine's Day. Yeah. So, but yeah.
And the rest
And
is
then,
history.
yeah, because we were like speed dating after that. We dated like constantly for 3 months. By the time May hit, we knew that we wanted to get married. And then we married the next December.
Wow.
So,
How
yeah.
long were you two together before you got married?
I mean, maybe you could say technically a year, but not really, because that September to February, we were just teller relation back and forth. But February to December.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
And how many years ago was that?
18.
18.
Yeah,
So
18.
clearly it went well.
Sounds like
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still doing well. So, still happy.
That's really cool.
That's the most important thing is do stuff that you're happy. If you're miserable, change it. Don't. Life is too short to be unhappy, for sure. Whether it's a job or anything, just find something that makes you happy.
Have you and Miss Mundy had any rough patches at all that have been kind of had to work through, or has it kind of been?
No, it's been pretty good. I mean, we're a typical couple. We'll disagree about stuff, maybe argue, but my dad was military, and my dad yelled a lot. And, he had his own issues from his childhood, a little bit of abuse and stuff that had crept in. So, I grew up in a kind of a volatile situation. I mean, luckily he wasn't like into alcohol or anything. Some of my other relatives were. And so, so I had some experience with alcoholism, but he wasn't. He disciplined himself that way, but he did yell and, it was kind of volatile. So that kind of pushed me the other direction, so we'll discuss things, but we've never really had like huge arguments or anything, because it's just better. You can communicate without doing that. That's what I've learned. And so that's what I try to do. So yeah, it's been pretty smooth. And she's, like I said, she's the financial wizard, and I'm like R&D. So, I'll have these ideas and I'm not afraid to pursue them. And then she takes care of everything else, and make sure we don't spend too much money. And we're fine. Yeah.
You're like, I want to do this. And she's like, we can't
Exactly.
afford that.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's like she was mad at me about the cards. I spent like $400 on that magic deck. She was not happy.
Yeah.
She's like, what? It's like, well,
I told her to stay at the 150,
yes, he did.
and then
he
he
did.
was like,
You
okay.
see me cringing in the video. Like, I got in trouble. So
You should have listened to me.
yeah. Don't tell her. Don't bring it up.
Sounds like she already knows.
Well, she already knows, but don't remind her. Let's say that. Don't
Yeah.
remind her. Let's not bring that up again. She's probably listening.
We'll keep that under wraps. I
Yeah.
won't show her this.
Yeah. So it's,
And actually, I'd
It's
love
bad.
to briefly touch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your wife is from Iran, I believe.
Yeah.
Iran. Okay. Has her heritage affected your life at all? Have y'all ever been to Iran or?
no, unfortunately, governments, right? The government's all messed up. Now, I have lots of friends that say, no, it's fine, just go. But I don't feel comfortable going.
Yeah.
I've known people, not personally, but I've known people that went. And yeah, they were American, and they just run into the wrong person, the wrong group, and they get harassed or even jailed. And, just because political statements, nothing else. And my personal experience traveling and playing chess is that people are great. Everybody has a family. They want their family to do well. They want to, increase their whatever, better themselves. It's the governments that are messed up. I don't know why. The governments are the ones that make everybody cringe and do things like Putin's doing in Ukraine. I mean, stupid. So, we haven't gone because of that, but I'm dying to go.
Yeah.
There's so many ancient sites and stuff, and
It's not like a cultural difference at all between you two.
No, because they are technically Muslim, and it's like I'm technically Christian, but I'm not like a huge practicing Christian. Being of that mind of exploring everything. I've read so many different books, from Mahabharata, to Taoism type things, and I just look for the truth wherever it is. If it. And funny thing is, when you start reading other religions, they all kind of say the same thing. Be nice to each other, better yourself, golden rule type thing. So, and so they're of the same mindset. They're Muslim, but one thing a lot of people don't realize about Muslims is, Christians, is that Muslims recognize Jesus Christ as a prophet. So they're not foreign. It all connects, Old Testament. So, but they're not hardcore either, and so we're fine. Yeah, it hasn't been any kind of issues. We actually have good conversations about how they view versus how Western views.
So here's kind of a big question. What is a change or changes that you would like to see in the world, or you think should happen?
It's tough. I mean, because it basically always goes to a lot of times it goes to economics, right? And when you talk about economics, you're talking about someone having money and someone not. And I'm actually a very conservative person, that it seems to be best if people earn their own way. That it doesn't seem to work if you put a pile of money and start handing it out to people, because it doesn't motivate them to earn for themselves. So, but that being said, there's got to be something we can do. Like, it bothers me that half the world doesn't have clean water and half the world does. That we have this technology, so everybody should be able to learn anything they want. And still some people are just struggling day to day to get food and water. I mean, I would love to, and other people have, but I always would love to find a way. For example, there's air, there's water in the air. If we could just create some kind of efficient dehumidifier, literally have a glass right here that fills itself with water. That's my dream. If I could create that and then give it away. I mean, if you could do that, then you get free electricity, because now you could make that glass of water up in a water tower. It could fill itself and then use the water the gravity to generate electricity. There's so many things we can do. There must be something, but there does seem to be like there was this guy named Tucker that invented a car, back in. How was that?
The water power car.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But Tucker had his own design for an automobile back in the 50s or something, and the large automakers, fought against him, and they had the money, so they could win. There was some other guy that came up with the intermittent windshield wipers, and he had to fight for decades to win his lawsuit against these big companies. So there is some kind of problem that when you get these large companies that will buy carburetors that get some kind of ridiculous 86 miles per gallon, and they'll just kind of shut it down because they want to keep it where they are. Or like Nikola Tesla, who has to go up against the copper mining companies, and they burn down his factory, they burn down his lab because they don't want him to have his, charge the atmosphere device, which worked. There's just crazy stuff like that. There is something about money and power. There's some kind of corruption. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it'd be nice we don't need that. Why can't we realize that we're just this one little ball, this little ball of dirt going around this massive star with a little bit of water on it. That's all we are. And we, if we could all just work together and just, help each other out.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know what the answer is. And I guess if someone had the answer, we'd be doing it already. But there must be an answer to solve this problem.
As somebody who uses math a lot,
yeah.
do you think maybe the problem could be that money is the root of all evil? That is a very nice equation. So.
I would say greed is the root of all evil.
Okay.
Because money is a nice tool. Like, the stupid thing is, money is not what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be based on a gold standard. Gold standard ended in 1965 or something. And our money's not backed by what it says it's backed by. And everybody knows this. This is no mystery. It's supposed to be backed by gold. It's supposed to be $1 of gold that I could technically go and hand in and say, can I have my dollar of gold, please? No, that doesn't happen. But it doesn't matter. All that matters is everybody agrees to the standard that we use. So if we were just to take that dollar and say, this is worth, 1 minute of my time, and it's worth 1 minute of your time, and we all agreed to it, then we could still just have the currency and just trade it and go back and forth, which I think is what the guy was trying to do with stuff like the digital currency. He was trying to decentralize it and just fixed amount. There was only going to be so much. Nobody could keep reprinting it and make inflation and everything. And so the problem is, in any kind of currency like that, is that the greed of some people, the old M&M experiment where you put the M&Ms there and say, okay, if you don't grab any, I'll give everybody their own bag. Or you can grab everything that you want, you get what you get. And, people are sitting there looking at each other and they're like, are they really going to give us their own bag? And then finally somebody goes in, they all go in, and that's it. It's just this fear of not having or something. And the greed, somewhere in there, some kind of psychology thing of well, if I don't get it now, I'm not going to get any, so I'm just going to get it now. Yeah, nah. So, Star Trek. But anyway, in Star Trek, the whole idea was somebody came up with this invention of a replicator. And when they came up with this invention of the replicator, now you could replicate food, you could replicate anything you needed. Everybody's basics were taken care of. And then that's the part that's going to sound rather liberal. But if we had a way that everybody's basics were taken care of, so they could then they're free to pursue whatever. Because some people, they just feel well, I have to work because I have to pay bills, et cetera, like that. And that's true for a lot of people. And it's just get a job and grind it out for years. And, but if they didn't have to do that, if you were free to do whatever you wanted to pursue, then you got to think the world would be better because everybody's going to be happier and they can invent or create whatever it is they want to invent or create or explore. I mean, we haven't even explored most of our oceans. Something ridiculous, like only 1%.
Yeah.
So it's something really small. So, I mean, we have so much more to learn and explore that we could do, but we're all kind of bound by this. Well, you got to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make money. You know.
Yeah. And a lot of the industries that have the most creative-minded people are lower paying.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Like
the theoretical
teachers.
physicists
Yeah.
and teachers. Yeah, and then they don't really make a lot. You do it because it's more of a passion than
And yet,
that you'll make
the
something.
future.
Right. Yeah.
You need people passionate enough to be willing to put up a low pay.
Yeah.
Which is also hard.
Yeah, and I heard a quote from somebody, I just don't remember who it was. They were talking about going back to technology. They were like, 30, 40 years ago, the greatest minds were working on robotics in surgery or something.
Yeah.
And now the greatest minds are working on how do I get more clicks? It's like, because clicks are what's going to make money. So how do we get people to click more? And that's just like, So again, we need to get that balance back, head in a different direction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those are good questions. Yeah, that's right.
I do have one more question I haven't
Yeah.
asked. Do you have a mentor in your life that will always be with you in your head?
Several actually. Because there was this one guy, and this was just because I had a passion of outdoors. I like hiking, camping. I like studying what plants people used to eat. Stuff like that, medicinal things, just anything outdoors. I like it, and was mountain biking for a long time. That was fun. But so I had signed up for these classes in New Jersey, and the guy's name is Tom Brown Jr. And he has an interesting story that he was taught by a Native American. He was an Apache elder, and he went by Stalking Wolf. And his tribe actually never got put on a reservation. They were so good with their skills that when they came around trying to put tribes on reservations, they escaped into the Rocky Mountains in the Southwest, and they just in Mexico and stuff, and they never got caught. So anyway, Stalking Wolf ran around the whole world doing what he did, and living his life. And he ran across Tom when he was a kid in New Jersey in whatever year it was. And so Tom spent 10, 12 years learning from this guy all the stuff that he knew, which was, how to, make fire, what to eat, medicinal plants, all this other stuff. And so now he runs one of the most successful schools up in New Jersey. And he's written many books and has tracked for the FBI, and he's a really good tracker. And so he goes after criminals and stuff. And anyway, it's just almost a lost art. But anyway, so I took some classes from him up there, and he had told me something about the passion thing. Because my family did not support me playing chess. Everyone's like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know, I just love it. That's all I know. And so I'm doing my own thing. And in one of his classes, he said, well, the Native Americans felt like if you had a passion for something, that was a direct connection to the creator, and you should just follow it. And when he said that, it clicked, because I kind of needed the courage, soon after that, to take that teaching course path instead of staying where I was. And that one thing stuck in my head of, I'm really passionate about it. I know it's going to be a pay cut, but why not do it? So that gave me the courage to make that leap, and it turned out to be the best decision of my life. And then, so him, my martial arts instructor, Francis Fong, he's always in my head too. He's just a funny, he came from Hong Kong, from China, and was more of a rough and tumble type person, and came over here and made his own way against his father's wishes. It was kind of similar. And so he taught me a lot too about just, being yourself and, live your life. You can't let other people tell you how to do it. So yeah. So those are two big mentors, Francis Fong and Tom Brown Jr. They help point the way, even though they didn't know it.
Yeah.
Because Tom wasn't saying that to me; he was saying it to the group.
Mm-hmm.
But
you took something from it.
Yeah, but it helped me out several times, and I still live my life that way.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
yeah.
You've given a lot of life advice throughout this whole thing. What would you say? One piece of advice to maybe people our age, just maybe not in college and in high school.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, because I don't know, you do want to take advice from people, but you take it with a grain of salt, because they have your parents and everybody, they have your best interest in heart, right? They want you to succeed, they want you to be happy. But and so did my parents, but they don't know what's best for you. At some point, you know what's best for you, and you can feel it. And so you may have like a whole crowd or a whole group saying, oh, we all need to go this way, but you feel like, no, I feel like I need to go this way. Then you go that way. You choose that, because you have to trust yourself. It's more than just your brain. It's the gut feeling and everything. And, so if it doesn't feel right for you, just don't do it. So you just always got to check yourself against the background of your surroundings or whatever. And just, they would say, follow your own heart. I think that's true.
Is there anything you've done that makes that easier? Because it's hard for a lot of people to...
Yeah, no, it is. And just the fact, my father was, excuse my French, my father was a hard ass, but he, he always said that. He always had that message too. He's like, he said, someday in your life, you may even have to go against your family, us. But he said, but you have to. If that's what you feel like strongly you have to do, then you may have to tell us to, flip off and I got to do this, and you just have to do it. And so, luckily, I had that support from him too in my head. And, and it's hard. It's not always easy, especially when someone's saying something that sounds so right. They may have like it just sounds like great advice. But I always remember Tolkien, they had that one line. Some guy was wanting Frodo to, hey, give me the ring. Yeah, give me the ring, right? And he's like, sounds like wisdom except for the warning in my heart. And that rings true in my head, you got to listen to yourself and be like, okay, that sounds great, but still doesn't feel right. So you don't do it. And I've definitely had instances like when I had my successful business, I had this other guy come in and want to buy my business. He wanted to merge, but it was really weird because he wanted to merge, but then all of a sudden I would only get 20% and he would get 80. I'm like, what? I'm doing all the work. What are you talking about? It should be the other way. And then maybe we can grow to a national thing. And that was definitely one of those instances where he had all these great arguments and it sounded right, but I was like, nah. And I walked away from that, and that was smart. He ended up like getting in lawsuits and stuff. So yeah, he went that greed path. So
what company was that?
What's that?
What company was that you opened?
Oh, Passport Chess. I still have it.
Oh.
Yeah. So I teach. Yeah, that's my banner that I teach under at Pace
so
and Trinity.
Passport Chess.
Passport Chess.
Yeah.
Actually, passportchess.com, but I never set it up.
I still support it.
So yeah.
Everyone, go to passportchess.com, click on all the ads.
I need to set it up.
Mr. Mundy loves getting clicks.
Yeah.
So
Clicks.
yeah, exactly. That's all I care about. How many clicks can I get? But yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share about yourself to people that may be listening? Something maybe people don't know about you, or something that...
You want a funny story?
Yes.
That's shocking to people. I got chased by a police helicopter one time.
You got chased? Elaborate.
Yeah, so all right. So we lived way off. My grandfather had like 60 acres or something, right? So our house was way off in the pasture. We had our own land, 20 acres, that he gave to my dad. And so our house was out there. So, we'd have to walk really far to go to the school bus, walk back every day. Anyway, so we're here. School's like way over there, a few miles away. But if you cut through the pasture, you could get there. Anyway, I wanted to learn piano. The teacher's like, I need a piano player. And I said, well, I'll play your keyboard for you if you teach me to play piano. And she's like, okay. So I was having piano lessons after school with this lady. Anyway, parents couldn't pick me up. They're working. So my brother has to walk across the fields to come get me. And so this is middle school. And anyway, there's feral dogs. Like I have stories of being surrounded by dogs and things like that. And it was, we were out there, right? And so you had to take a rifle with you. It was out in the country. It's just the way it was. And so he just, had his .22 rifle and he'd come get me because don't let him walk by himself. And he, of course, stash it and come get to the school and get me and then come back and we'd walk back across the pastures. Anyway, somebody must have seen him, freaked them out, and I can understand, young kid running around with a rifle or something. But this is like 80s, right? That's a long time ago, different times. Anyway, still, they call the police. And so we're walking back and we see the car and we see the spotlight and they're looking for him. We're like, uh-oh, they're looking for him. So we dug down in the grass and we're hiding because, you're kids, you panic. That's the first thing you do is panic. It's like, we don't want to get in trouble. We didn't do anything. And so anyway, so we start making our way back towards, where we need to go into the woods and stuff like that. And then we hear this, another car shows up, more spotlights, and we hear the helicopter. And the helicopter has its spotlight. And they're really looking for us. They were really concerned. So, but, we knew to hide in the shadows. So even if the spotlight hit, the shadows were really dark. So we just hid in the shadows and we made our way through and we survived. So they didn't get us.
Yeah.
But I don't know what would have happened to us, but
So
still.
if the investigation is still open today, you know where to look.
Statute of limitations. They can't get me. So, yeah, the only other story that people, not the only other, but one that they find amusing is I had a pet wasp when I was a kid.
Pit wasp?
Yeah. I came home from school one day and there's this wasp on my counter and he was dry and I didn't like bees and stuff like that. Yeah, I got stung. I didn't like it. Anyway, he looked so pathetic, so pitiful. And I was like, well, maybe he's thirsty. So I got a drop of water. I put it in front of the wasp and it crawled over to the water and drank it. I was like, oh, interesting. So I got some water and put some sugar in it and put it in front. He crawled over and it drank it. Anyway, so I saved this wasp's life, and for the next week, this wasp follows me around the house and sleeps by my bed. And then finally one night, I named it Lassie, and luckily I have witnesses, so I can corroborate this. But I guess I don't know what the lifespan of a wasp is, but on the last night it landed right here, and I rolled over, and it stung me, and but I think it was just saying goodbye. So crazy story, but true story. Yes. But he was a friendly little wasp. So if you're nice to anything, I guess it'll be nice to you.
And then you roll over and squish it.
Well, that was an accident. I was asleep.
Well,
And it did get me back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh yeah, got you too. So yeah, that's a funny story. So yeah,
it'd be like if you punched your dad in the face and then he hit you in the head with a hammer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
Past experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.